Well, NXT, it was nice knowing you while we had you, right? Today on the show, we're talking about the big changes that are rumored, that are coming, that we do know that are coming to NXT as a brand as a whole. We're going to deep dive all of that, the news, the rumors, the speculation, everything for you guys today on the show right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Assemble. I'm Matt. Great to have you here on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we're talking about NXT. It's getting rebranded, it's getting overhauled, and we've got some new latest rumors and news coming out of all of this that we are kind of curious to see what the heck is going to happen. Now, we did get the new logo getting revealed by WWE, showing us that it's going to be having a lot more color. It's going to be much more vibrant. It's going to have a little bit more pizzazz. We haven't seen what the arena is going to look like itself, how they're going to overhaul all of the aesthetics of it for the actual presentation yet, but that should be coming down the pipe very, very soon. As we know, the current NXT environment and iteration and everything, it is currently being taped for the next couple of episodes, and we're going to see it go back live around mid-September. Now, when it does that, presumably that is when we're going to see this big change in NXT in terms of their branding, the colors, the aesthetics, all of it, including the superstars and the approach, and going back towards much more of a developmental system for NXT and becoming that kind of feeding system to main roster. This is very, very evident to me because of what we've seen with NXT right now, coming out of TakeOver with Adam Cole basically exiting there and being left with a bunch of feuds that kind of just feel like they're treading water and they're petering out, and that they don't really have much motivation, that they are not really trying to push towards even another takeover or anything down the road. We see Samoa Joe as the NXT champion, which is fantastic. We see guys like LA Knight that are getting a bigger push. Kyle O'Reilly is in the mix, and so are a lot of other stars. That's all great, but they're not really focusing in on pushing towards a real big storyline. In my opinion, just watching NXT lately, it really does feel like it's going down the path of getting completely just crushed, and Triple H's whole build for this brand as a third unique brand is going to be completely gone. And this is much more evident with the current news, the recent news of Brian Alvarez reporting that NXT itself is going to have Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard produce the new NXT. Yeah. Because Vince has got his thumb on like great production, you know, like on Raw. Because Raw is amazing. Now, when we hear this, I think a lot of us, including myself, initial sticker shock is like, oh my gosh, Vince and Bruce are going to be at the PC all the time, producing NXT on a weekly basis. Personally, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but you tell me in the comments below. I think it's actually going to go down is we're going to see Bruce and Vince come in and handle the initial transition and getting it produced and set up to be produced like a major branded Raw SmackDown program on a weekly basis. I don't think it necessarily means that Vince and Bruce are going to be on the headsets in gorilla position for NXT as it's a developmental system. I just don't think that's going to happen. But what I do think is that they are going to be more so hands-on when it comes to the initial change. I was going to say takeover, but initial changes to NXT overall, and then handing the reins over to possibly somebody else. But you never know. This could mean that Bruce Prichard and Vince are actually going to be kind of really overseeing a lot more closely. We'll have to wait and see what the final end game is going to be. I don't think changing NXT overall and giving it this, fresh, literally like fresh coat of paint is necessarily a terrible thing. I think it's hard for fans to adjust as we're used to a certain thing. The CWC arena, I don't care for. I think that NXT could use a refresh overall in terms of its branding and aesthetics. I think going with the black and gold for so long, yes, it's defined itself as this brand, this indie brand, this alternative to main roster, but I think it could use a new shot of life in it regardless. And even if these changes weren't coming, we don't see the NXT roster really blowing people away lately. The ratings are not what they used to be. As soon as they switched over to Tuesday nights and they got away from competing directly with AEW, it really hasn't had the same feel. And we're kind of missing the days of old of NXT where we had these massive stars coming in. And now we know that NXT is going to be much more of that developmental system for new stars. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We always want to see new stars going from NXT and being brought up to main roster. It gives new stars a new opportunity. It's fresh stars, fresh faces. And frankly, with the existing roster they have, with stars like Kyle O'Reilly or Samoa Joe or LA Knight or folks like Dakota Kai in the women's division, we could see them actually move around to possibly main roster or exit in the next year, depending on their contract, and go elsewhere. They've built up enough kind of brand and being able to showcase what they can do that they could go to other promotions like an AEW or New Japan, and they could be very, very successful. So I think it's great that we're going to get new stars. I don't know what the approach is really going to look like, though, once we get this new branded NXT, and I wonder if they are going to change everything out to make it look like a kind of miniature Raw. And what I mean is that they don't necessarily go with the giant Titantron and everything, but I wonder if they try to make it feel a little bit bigger and a little bit more grand with more polish and kind of smooth that thing out to not make it look as kind of indie underground, which is what Triple H and Shawn and everybody else went for with NXT to give it its own identity. The other big thing, the big question I think a lot of us have is, what happens now with Triple H? No, I don't believe that this is going to turn into Triple H's fire to let go or something big happens, but I do wonder what the heck is going to happen now as he has built this thing for so long, and presumably, if the rumors and reports are true and accurate, if Vince and Bruce Prichard and team are coming in to overhaul this entire thing, Nick Khan has said that this thing is getting completely redone, rebranded, as we go through into September. What happens to Triple H in there with this whole thing that he has built up? Is he still going to be in charge? Let me know what you think. Do you think Triple H is still going to be at the helm running NXT even as it goes and transitions into much more developmental versus having all of these big giant indie stars in this promotion? To me, I think he's still going to be hands-on. I think he's still going to be working with NXT, but I don't think it's going to necessarily feel like Triple H's baby anymore. And then I kind of wonder, where does he go from here? Because I appreciate all the work that he's done growing and building NXT to what it was. And as they kind of transition into this new way of NXT, I really wonder what his role and duties are going to look like within the company itself. And the last thing is with the existing roster. Where are we going to see all of these stars go? Are we going to see them stay within NXT itself in this new format and find a different place and home for themselves? Or are they going to be just kind of released and pushed out? I can't imagine stars like Tommaso Ciampa are going to stay in this new version of NXT when he has so much to offer a main roster or another promotion. There are still so many great talent in there from the men's and the women's side that I really do wonder if they can find their home and not just turn into basically being a feeding system for brand new faces, brand new talent, fresh talent from NXT that they're literally trying to teach how to wrestle. I don't want to see Tommaso Ciampa go up against somebody that has been in WWE and developmental for a matter of months and trying to work with them and get them better, unless it's what they want to do. Like Johnny Gargano in the Way is probably the most entertaining thing that I get right now on NXT in the current iteration of the product. It's the only thing that has some legs with the storyline. But what happens when that's over? We've got the giant storyline of the wedding coming up. Where are they going to go with that? Are they going to disband this whole thing? Is it just going to kind of peter out? I really wonder what they're going to do with the current crop of stars that they have that have made a name for themselves, and where do they fit in? The WWE draft is coming up for Raw and SmackDown, presumably around October, and I think that's a good time where they can kind of cherry pick some stars out of NXT and bring them up to main roster. But that also doesn't feel like it fits in with the new model and way that they want to push main roster stars, because all we ever hear right now is how Vince and team want to be able to have these spectacle, larger than life athletes than these indie stars. So it's going to be really interesting once we actually get through to October, things kind of settle in, and we see what happens, especially around the time of the draft. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Where are these stars going to go? Are you excited for the new branded NXT? And do you think that with Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard kind of at the forefront and presumably producing this new version, do you think that they are going to be extremely hands-on, or do you think it's much more of just a production thing that we're going to get? Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Make sure you tune in for more episodes here on the show every single week. Do me a favor if you can, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and consider becoming channel members as well. Thank you for watching, and as always, thank you all for assembling with us. See ya!